Good evening. I would like to start by first thanking Donna Stalter, the Public Relations Specialist at Fairfield Medical Center, for submitting my name to speak to you this evening. It means a lot to me that she had the confidence to know that I could get up here and do this, and my goal is to be able to tell you start to finish my trials and tribulation and the excellent care I've received at the Fairfield Medical Center. I would also like to thank the Ohio Hospital Association, the beautiful corsage that they gave me and making me feel like $1 million. I appreciate everything. The dinner was fabulous. Although I view myself as young, I'm old enough to remember growing up when our society didn't say the word cancer much. As a child, when my grandmother died of ovarian cancer, really nobody talked much about what had happened and what was wrong. Thanks to the education and awareness that hospitals and healthcare workers have devoted their time to throughout the years, we're able to understand a little better the warning signs and, more importantly, encouraged to talk about the dreaded C word. In September of 2009, I discovered a lump in my right breast. After consulting with Dr. Shelley Thompson, I visited the Fairfield Diagnostic Center, and they're also an affiliate of Fairfield Medical Center. I went there for my routine mammogram with orders to have an ultrasound because the lump was likely too high for the mammogram to show. As expected, I was immediately moved from mammography to ultrasound with specific orders to ultrasound the right side. Let's start by saying I had a wonderful ultrasound technician that helped me get through the process of what turned out to be the initial diagnosis. Mary Mathias became my angel and truly understands the importance of having connection with her patients. I found the lump on the right side. Although Mary had orders to just ultrasound that side, she looked at me and she said, "As long as you're laying here in this uncomfortable position, let's go ahead and check the left side." What she found on the left side was later diagnosed as a microinvasion of the papillary carcinoma, a slow-growing cancer that, according to my surgeon, may otherwise have taken a couple of years to appear on my mammogram and likely would have been a stage 3 or 4 by the time it was diagnosed. All because Mary took the time and went the extra mile, I was able to receive a quicker diagnosis, which gave me better odds to fight the cancer that was growing inside of me. Although I now jokingly refer to myself as a frequent flyer at Fairfield Medical Center, I need you to understand that at the time I was 46 years old and had only ever in my lifetime had one other outpatient procedure. Now I'm sitting in Mary's examination room being told by the radiologist that I needed to contact a surgeon, having no idea of who to call. So in sticking with tonight's theme, having connections with your caregiver, I called a dear friend that just happens to be married to Dr. James Gunther, a Fairfield Medical Center OBGYN. She said she would call Jim and she'd get right back to me. Within minutes, she did. And that's how I found Dr. Jeffrey Yenshar. Not until I walked into his office did I realize that one of his longtime staff members is my sister-in-law's sister. So right away, by seeing Karen's face, I knew it was going to be okay. I was going to be at ease because I knew someone. Then I met Dr. Yenshar's nurse, Alicia, who made herself available to me and my husband, whether in the office or when I would call in with a question. I was scheduled for a lumpectomy on October 28, 2009, only to have the pathology reports come back that required a partial mastectomy 3 weeks later on November 18th. On November 18th, I needed to have nuclear medicine 2 hours before surgery. Not knowing what to expect, I sent my husband to get some breakfast. You see, he wasn't allowed to eat in front of me because I didn't know how long it was going to be till I was allowed to eat. I didn't realize once I received the injections, they would send me out in the surgery waiting room to be with family. You don't go into surgery with a purse and a cell phone, so I'm thinking, okay, great, well, I'm going to be on my own for a little bit. I walked out into the waiting room early that morning, and there was already a volunteer there, and I approached her and I asked if there was a possibility that I could make a call. Little did I know Luella McClaskey, the volunteer, was a friend of my mother's. She knew me, and I had no clue who she was. She picked up the phone, didn't need to ask me my parents' phone number, and had my parents there in the matter of minutes. Again, it's all about local caregiving. More important than the diagnosis and the pending surgery was the fact that my pre-op nurses were a hoot. I have said many times that it's wrong to have as much fun as I've had in pre-op, and you have to understand by the end of my surgery, I've had 4 surgeries in 18 months. But it was all about going into it, I felt, with the right mindset, and maybe part of it was to mask the fear that I had. 2 minutes before my second surgery, I had my husband taking picture of Nurse Rachel Carpenter's haircut. Yes, once the bangs grow, I will look like Rachel. The other nurses working with Rachel that day started shaking their heads, saying that thanks to the attention that we had just showered on her, she was going to be impossible to work with the rest of the day. Waking up in recovery, I've been cared for by familiar faces. Annette Sylvester graduated from the same small high school as I did, and Tara Miller, I found in talking to her, was the niece of my very dear friend that, I hate to admit this, my friend, the nail tech. So this is coming full circle. Imagine the feeling of waking up surrounded by familiar faces in an otherwise sterile environment. I had connections with my caregivers. Fairfield Medical Center's tagline is people you know, care you trust. That certainly does ring true for me. Having that connection speaks volumes when you're going through something so traumatic in your life. In October of 2010, after waiting 6 months post-radiation, it was time for my first mammogram and what turned out to be ultrasound. I had found a lump in the right side. Who are you going to call, right? So off I went to Fairfield Diagnostic Center and my good friend and angel, Mary Mathias. Again, a radiologist was immediately available to look at the results and suggested I contact Dr. Yenshar. Surgery was scheduled, and thankfully, the results were non-cancerous. To this point in my story, I was blessed to have been an outpatient guest of Fairfield Medical Center. You see, I stand before you today, 47 years old, and until May 16th, I had never spent a night in any hospital. 4 weeks ago, I had to have a total hysterectomy. The good news is I'm no longer producing estrogen, therefore those cancer cells can take a hike. I'm done. I spent 2 nights in the capable hands of Fairfield Medical Center staff. When I arrived at 5:30 in the morning, I was greeted by Tara Miller, who was previously my post-op nurse after the partial mastectomy. She spent the next 2 hours with me preparing me for surgery. But what she really did was treat me like she had known me for years and kept my mind busy and allowed me to go into surgery totally relaxed. The surgeon I chose was Dr. James Gunther, another familiar name you heard earlier in my story, because I wanted to have a connection with my caregiver. During my 2-day stay in the maternity ward, I was cared for by registered nurses Liz, Becca, Nikki, Faye, and a girl, Jess, who, when I talked to her about her job at 3:30 in the morning, she said, "I'm just a tech." And I made sure that she understood that she was far more than a tech and to never, ever discount her importance to what she did on that floor. Although we had never met, they treated me incredibly well. I was told I needed to begin making laps around the maternity floor, and nurses that Tom and I didn't know and had never met were cheering me on and encouraging me with every step. I cannot talk highly enough about the care and support I received during my stay. With each of the 4 surgeries I have had in the past 18 months, I have had at Fairfield Medical Center, and it's truly made a difference in my recovery. I feel that I'm closing one chapter of my life and beginning another, stronger, better, and more passionate about life than ever before. I'd like to think that I've waged a battle against breast cancer and I've won. Every time I found myself in the caring hands of a team of medical professionals, I chose love over fear, learned that laughter really is the best medicine, and knew that Melissa Etheridge's song, "I Run for Life," was an anthem with which I could live by. As caregivers, I think it's important to note that from a patient's perspective, it's much easier on us than it is our spouse and our family members. After all, they have the hours of worry why I'm in prep and in surgery and in post-op. And for all intents and purposes, I'm out of it and just in my happy place. God knew what he was doing when Tom came into my life after being divorced for 15 years and living on my own. Now married nearly 7 years, Tom has been there for me every step of my breast cancer journey. through appointments, surgeries, recoveries. You served my advocate. He asked detailed questions. A funny story, middle of the night, my IV's running dry. They turned me down so they had time to go get the IV fluid and come back. And the nurse, because of course I'm chatty Cathy and talking with the nurse, she gets all confused about what's going on and starts to walk out. And Tom said, hey, just a minute, but that IV has been set on this since she arrived. And she goes, oh my gosh, we turned it down. So he even noticed my IV settings. So he definitely had my back. Thanks. So basically, what I started to say before I choked myself up, that no matter what question he asked, or I asked, or we asked together, whether it was a doctor, a nurse, or just Jess, everybody had an answer, and it was an answer to our satisfaction. I think it's fair to say that Tom has been treated as well as I have from every member of the Fairfield Medical Center team. As professionals, thank you for recognizing that knowledge is power and preparing him on what to expect when I was released and he took over as the role of caregiver. Mine has been an incredible journey. I'm forever grateful to all who have helped me along the way. For you see, in my position, all I've been able to do is take from the medical community. I haven't been able to give you anything. I didn't expect this. Later tonight, the OHA is going to award one of the 76 of you Healthcare Worker of the Year. I want to be the first to congratulate you on your win, and I simply ask, don't lose sight of how important your warm smile and your caring touch is to patients like me. The importance of the local care I received from diagnosis to recovery gave me a level of comfort that no doubt assisted me to have a positive outlook and allowed me to walk past surgery and on to recovery. Don't lose sight of the fact that to the world you may be one person, but to this one person you're the world. Thank you.